Hello, I'm Gus Downing, publisher and editor of the D&D Daily. And today we have with us Bob Moraca, Vice President of Loss Prevention for the National Retail Federation, and Joe LaRocca, Vice President and Senior Advisor, Loss Prevention for RetaiLPartners, and a former VP of LP for the NRF as well. We're also here in New York City today, ladies and gentlemen, while the National Retail Federation is having their annual Big Show, their flagship event, where over 30,000 retail executives and solution providers from around the world converge for a 4-day event that offers unparalleled education, collegial networking, in an enormous expo hall full of technologies and solutions. After more than a century, retail's Big Show is still the only place where you can see and experience all things retail. It is truly one-stop shopping for industry professionals from around the world. The Big Show presents visionary leaders with game-changing ideas to help elevate your perspective of the industry and your business. The Expo Hall is a showcase for the industry's most innovative technologies, where retail executives searching for the most effective solutions and tools can find them. Here at the biggest Expo Hall in North America, from the C-level, and senior executives to the regional managers and the single store operators, anyone who's in retail has a home at retail's Big Show. With that, we'd like to welcome both of you here today and thank you for taking the time to be with us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gus.
Over the last year, there's been so much change, probably more so than any year before, and it's almost all of it is as a direct result of technology, from data breaches to increased ORC activity, the e-commerce impact on the stores, store closings, protests all over the country, mobile payments. Our industry is facing complete transformation because of technology. With that, Bob, what do you see, and how do you see it impacting the LP industry and the LP executive?
It's a good question, Gus, and good to see you again. I got to tell you, I just came off the NRF Big Show floor and spent some time with the CIO, the Chief Information Officer Council, with Tom Litchford, who I think you're going to interview later this week. Mm-hmm. It was amazing to see how the technology is changing around us. We've got to find new ways to defend ourselves accordingly. And frankly, they went through some interesting numbers, and I think still the number one issue out there is the cyber, whether it's the cyber issues at the stores or on the credit card side. And frankly, they threw out some stats that are still amazing, and they're growing. That 1 minute, each host PC actually hits a malicious website.
It's being attacked every minute.
Every minute.
Server, every minute.
And 10 minutes,
Absolutely.
every 10 minutes one gets through.
Okay.
And every 49 minutes, they're in and they're getting your information and moving it outside of your
let's hope
control.
It's not, of one of the retailers.
Well, nobody wants to be the next headline, right?
Sure.
So that is such a huge issue. There's so much effort being put into it between the NRF, IT security, the LP folks. We're working hand in hand with them. And frankly, then on the credit card side specific, in October, we've got the changeover to the EMV chip technology taking place. It's going to be chip and signature, unfortunately. We still, as an industry, have a long way to go to get to chip and PIN, which is better. And then tokenization technology, which will, I think, really finally lock down that information. But it's a journey, and the NRF is glad to be leading the way, and our LP professionals are on top of it, working hand in hand with IT. So I think those are the issues that are still at hand, and then ORC is still growing, behind us, if you will.
Where are we with the PIN? Why isn't banks and the credit unions adapting the PIN technology? Why are they just going with the chip?
Yeah, it's a great question. The banking industry, I believe, was reluctant to try and make those changes, and I'm not sure a lot of retail wanted to spend all the money to switch over to the technology. But once some of those breaches took place and took headlines, everyone joined in. It would have been nice if they went one step further. Actually, the NRF and I want to say the Obama administration has helped us. In the fall, the president designated that every federal
government
contract and government credit
Correct.
card will now use PIN and chip.
Right.
So they're leading the way. That's about 20% of the credit card stuff that goes on out there. So we think that that's going to be another catalyst to get there. I just think we're going to have to crawl before we walk, and I'd like to think we'll get there within a couple of years.
Joe, your take on the lack of the credit unions and the banks going to PIN technology? Why is that? That would solve a lot more than that we need.
Right. Well, I think it's twofold. I think Bob raises some really important points, which is there's a cost involved. There's a cost involved to the retailer and to the financial institution. And until all of these cyber intrusions, frankly, the risk hasn't outweighed the demand from the public and from legislators and regulators. The deadline for a chip and PIN conversion has been pushed off 4 years. This is not a new discussion. It was supposed to happen 3 years ago and never did. You've seen countries around us, like Canada, already make those conversions. But what's brought it to light, as Bob mentioned and you teed it up with, retailers have been the victim, no question, over the past 12 to 18 months with breaches. This started in a discussion with Target and Neiman's and Michaels and a few other companies, and commitments before Congress about switching to chip and PIN faster and being ready to make those things happen in 2014. Years come and gone. Everybody's working on it, but I think I have maybe a jaded view in some senses that retailers are really getting the unfair blame here. Retailers in 2014 lost just over 59 million records of information. There was about 35 incidents from companies, many companies that you never really hear the names of. Did you know that Dairy Queen was hacked? Did you know that Albertsons, Super Value, Home Depot, one of the largest in history, Goodwill Industries, and a host of others? But in Congress and even in our own circles, we tend to push this as it's a retail problem and retailers need to fix it. When in reality, let's be honest, there's another 2 million records lost in other industries, government, financial, and some examples, right? JP Morgan, the US Postal Service, the US State Department, U.S. Investigations Services, which runs all the background checks on federal employees, healthcare.gov, Office of Personnel Management, and many, many others. So this is really a national problem that we need to address. NIST, for the National Institute of Standards and Technology, has been looking at an online identity and has been doing a number of working groups on this for years now. So I think we're headed in the right direction, but we have a long, long way to go. And even what we're doing today may not be the solution for tomorrow. I think that we're just really chasing at this point.
Joe, what are your thoughts about the state of the LP industry? Where are we going, and how does, and I'm asking this for you too as well, Bob, where are we going and how does an LP executive navigate it and position themselves for success?
Well, I think that we've seen this evolution probably over the last couple of decades now. In the 90s, we started to see loss prevention groups, because of the Y2K initiative, get really focused on technology and cyber. You started to see an emphasis again on business continuity and how do we maintain the business if the register systems or the store operations crash. That brought us to a technology level, and companies upgraded their systems. We got all sorts of new toys and gadgets as a result. 9/11 occurs 2 years later, and now we're in this physical security. We're thinking about, rather than active shooter, let's just, for this purpose, call it imminent threat. It's the threat of terrorism, it's the threat of a shooter, it's the threat of a workplace violence incident, it's a physical security. So it's beyond the block and tackle of shrink and cash losses and fraud, and now to how do we really physically protect the people, the customers and employees. Here we are with cyber, right back into the gizmos and gadgets again. So this pendulum continues to shift, but when you look at the demand on a loss prevention person, an executive now needs to think far deeper than just the LP department or even IT. It's about the new store design. It's about omni-channel. It's about going global. It's about putting stores in foreign lands that you may not have any experience in their regulatory, in their retail operations and union activities like in the EU and others. So I think the demand on the people is much greater. And oh, by the way, we have things like organized retail crime and major fraud activity and the here and now issues tackling us every day.
You know, here's a question for both of you. I mean, with technology driving retail now and all the exposures it brings, you know, how close do we become with the IT security folks? I mean, are we merging in a sense? How far does tomorrow's LP executive have to go with cybersecurity? I think that's one of the biggest things we're facing over the next 10 years.
That's a very good point, Gus. I think that we need to be joined at the hip. Loss prevention and the IT security component in your company, certainly at the National Retail Federation. We're looking at everything in that global perspective from an enterprise standpoint. Matter of fact, we're bringing other groups into that discussion too. Matter of fact, on the 22nd of January, the NRF is going to host a webinar for the Chief Information Officers, the LP professionals, the IT security, and the General Counsel, the legal folks.
What's the date on that?
That is January 22nd for members. They can contact myself or go to the NRF website at nrf.com. But I think it's the first of its kind, bringing in the legal component. The general counsels are going to be engaged, because it's a team effort. You know, loss prevention has always been a team sport, and now we're just expanding the team to fight the good fight.
Joe?
I think that's great, and I think the loss prevention departments continue to get fully integrated. I mean, this shift started when we started using computer screens as camera monitors. We started to get connected, but even today, and just walking the show floor yesterday, we continue to hear the question about the pipe. How do we pump more video through the pipe? How do we get better business intelligence through the pipe at the store level and within corporate? And I think the skilled loss prevention executives have found a way to navigate those discussions and talking about, okay, we can provide real-time business analytics using camera technology, things like dwell time and pattern recognition and mobile detection and other operational terms, but then really apply that into the loss prevention field, because now we get all sorts of intelligence about, well, who's in the store, and some facial recognition and some device identification for repeat offenders and crime. So I think these two continue to come together, but we still have a lot of work to do, and IT is figuring us out, and we're still learning all of their jargon and capabilities.
Bob, can you give us an update on NRF Protect this coming June?
Yes, it's a very exciting time. NRF Protect, our expo and conference now has been rebranded and renamed. A couple of different things. It's in June this year in Long Beach. It will be the largest loss prevention event in North America. It's going to be exclusive. This year we're expanding to 11 different types of educational sessions, 44 world-class educational sessions. With a curriculum and a faculty and a trained faculty, so everyone's going to walk away with something new, something practical that they can take home and use. We've enhanced the Fusion Center. We're the only place where law enforcement and retail executives can sit down and talk, break bread. Last year we had over 23 agencies. This year we expect probably in excess of 30. We've got a wonderful lineup of keynotes. Ray Kelly, the former New York City Police Commissioner, with everything that's going on in New York and with law enforcement, it's going to be intriguing to hear his perspective. Alex Ross is an expert in innovation and technology, going to help put a face on where we are and where we need to go. And then Rourke Denver, former U.S. Navy SEAL, who made an appearance 2 years ago, is going to kind of help host our event and give like a 15-minute TED-type talk. So we've also added an emerging leader session for the younger, newer retail executives, which never really been targeted before. The executive afternoon is going to be enhanced. We've got so much going on. I just go to nrfprotect.com, see what's coming. This is the event you can't miss.
Well, and with that, I would certainly suggest everybody do that, obviously. Thanks for the update, Bob.
Terrific.
And thanks for the support of this event, and thanks for supporting our next live event coming this June at NRF Protect. And Joe, I'd like to thank you for the couple of years you've been emceeing this. You guys do a great job with Amber. So I want to thank you.
It's all her.
Well, that's it for this episode, folks. And we want to thank you for watching. And until next time, let's keep them all safe out there.